I saw this clip over the weekend, and this, without a doubt, is the most idiotic, criminally negligent thing I've ever seen done with a car. Now, before I start criticizing anybody and what they've done, I got to make a couple of disclaimers. The first is that people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. I live in a glass house. There's a reason why I don't drive really fast cars or really fast motorcycles, and that's because I'm not responsible enough. When a serious amount of power is part of the equation, I lose all reason and logic. It just goes right out the window, and it's like just a go thing, right? And I learned this years ago, and so I avoid those situations. More than content to let other people drive cars, I'll just work on them. Same thing with motorcycles. And it's like the man has to know his own limitations. That's part of, being mature. Like, for instance, I didn't carry a gun for years because I didn't trust myself. I know that I'm a good guy, but I also have a hot-headed temper, and so I shouldn't have immediate access to that kind of thing. So, getting that out of the way, I gotta comment on this. I have to go through this because not so much to put these guys down or anything like that, but because there's examples of what not to do. Like, this whole episode is what not to do. And I gotta stop here and I gotta give a shout out to Dan the fireman. I watch this channel a lot. Dan does motorcycle crashes, and he does them where he'll break it down step by step and show you where people made the mistakes. Great channel. But anyway, let's talk about this. So here's the situation, and I'm sure you guys have seen this clip before. They're riding in a 1,300 horsepower, roots-blown Mercury Comet. And you can see that it's built as a show car. This is not a race car. You could see that it's that basic mix match of components that just somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing is going to put together. Somebody with much more money than brains or experience. That would be this guy, driving the car. This guy has a YouTube channel. And what they're doing now is they're going to take this car out for a spin. Now, they're in traffic, okay? This is like regular daytime traffic. They're going to take this thing out for a spin and then shoot a YouTube feature on it. So they get in the car and they're tooling around, and after a few minutes, the driver says, hey, the throttle is sticking. And this thing, it's a roots-blown motor, okay? It's idling at around 2,500 RPM. It is stuck at like 2,500 RPM. And also, let's keep this in mind too, this car has a very tight converter in it. You can see it as you drive along. So 2,500 RPM and probably a very tight converter means that this thing wants to idle along at about 50 miles an hour. Keep that in mind now. They're in traffic, they're in stop-and-go traffic. And this thing is idling along at about 50 miles an hour. So what does this genius do? Or this guy who's supposed to know what he's talking about? Instead of pulling over and figure out why the throttle is stuck, they just keep going. They just keep driving. They're just cruising around. This guy is riding the brakes the whole time. Now you gotta picture this. You're in 30 mile an hour traffic, 20 mile an hour traffic. This thing wants to go 50. He's riding the brakes the whole time. After a few minutes, this guy says, hey, I smell brakes. Now, is this an indication that perhaps maybe we should pull over and fix the idling problem before we go any further? No, just keep going. It's all good. I got brakes. Okay. Please, I just cannot imagine what's going on here. In their heads, there's nothing going on in their heads. So here's what happens now, right? After they're cruising around for a while, they're aware that there's a problem with the brakes. They know there's a problem with the brakes. They know there's a problem with the engine. They know this thing was idle at 50 frickin' miles an hour. They're coming up to an intersection. They're in traffic. They can see far. There's no obstructed vision. They can see an intersection coming. So this guy starts pumping the brakes. Okay, now let's watch. They see the intersection. He realizes something's wrong. Pump, pump, pump. He pumps the brakes 3 times, okay? He pumps the brakes let's say maybe 4 times. Let's give him that much. and he takes the shifter and he throws it in park. Okay. He pumps the brakes 3 or 4 times, realizes nothing's happening, and then he takes the shifter and throws it in park as if this is going to do anything. As if the little parking pole is going to like grab that and stop this car at 50 miles an hour. Now, here's what should have been done. Here's what should have been done. Never mind the fact that they never should have gotten themselves into this situation. This is just pure idiocy. It's pure negligence. Pure negligence, okay? What he should have done, once he realized that it's a runaway car, the brake pedal is not responding, instead of putting it into park, which clearly shows you don't know what you're doing, the very first thing he should have done, the instant he realized what was going on, stuck throttle, no brakes, is he should have killed the ignition. Period. Done. Kill the ignition. That should have been instinctually the first thing that he... See, now here's the thing you have to realize, right? Most people who get themselves into a situation where they've got a 1,300 horsepower car have climbed the ropes, right? So they know, you know, on a smaller level. Like, with go-karts, oh, this is what happens when the brakes stop, or mini bikes, or whatever it is that you have as you're climbing the ladder to the point where you've got a 1,300 horsepower car. You come across these situations with these little failures and it's done in a way that minimizes the potential for disaster, not in a 1,300 horsepower car. So this guy clearly has zero experience, has no business being in a car with that kind of power out on a public road. So at any rate, if he had some kind of experience, instinctually he would have killed the throttle. If he had any idea how a car functioned, he would not have put it in park. He takes the shifter and automatically throws it into park. What should have been done was you kill the throttle and you downshift. You'll get engine braking. If you kill the power, now the motor can't be pulling anymore, it's still engaged, it's still rotating, you'll get some engine braking if you drop it into a lower gear, which is what he should have done. Now here's the thing you have to realize, in a brake failure situation, every mile an hour counts. Anything you can do to reduce speed, okay, so impact is imminent, no matter what's going to happen, you're going to impact. The only thing you need to be concerned with before that impact is reducing your speed. Every mile an hour counts. So instead of hitting it 50 miles an hour, if you hit it 45, it's that much less damage. If you hit it 30, it's that much less damage. If you hit it 15, it's a fender bender. It's no big deal. He didn't do that. This thing, because of his inaction on killing the ignition and throwing it into park, literally eliminated any chance of this thing having a happy ending or like a not so bad ending. Now here's another thing too. He pumps the brakes 3 times. Now look, all he's doing now is he's steering, making no effort. Oh, okay. He makes no effort after the initial 3 or 4 pumps. He makes no effort to pump the brakes on. So now what happened was, as they were driving along, they're dragging the brakes the whole time. So keep in mind, this is like 30 mile an hour traffic. This thing wants to go 50. So for as long as they're driving, a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, I don't know how long it was, doesn't matter. They're dragging the brakes are getting hot, the brake fluid boiled. After that first 3 or 4 pumps that he makes, he no longer makes any effort at all at the brake pedal. Now he should have been pumping frantically the whole time, because he could have overcome the bubble, the boiled fluid in whichever caliper or calipers it was, and at least there's going to be 1 or 2 other brakes on the car that are going to help scrub off some of that speed. But no, all this guy does is throws it into park, his legs are stationary, and it's just like braced for impact. If you're ever in a situation like this, where you've got a runaway car, you've got or motorcycle, and impact is imminent, you're going to hit another car, you're going to hit a stationary object, you're going to run off the road, whatever it happens to be. The only thing you need to think about is getting that thing slowed down. Every single mile an hour counts. How nobody got killed in this? Look at that hit. Look at that hit. They hit an SUV, right? That thing could have had kids in the back, it could have had dogs in the back, It could, look at this. Look how much space he has to try to get this thing slowed down. He's weaving, he's looking, okay, granted, he's trying to find an out. There is no out. But the whole time that he's steering and trying to find the out, he's letting the engine drive him into this. What is wrong with this guy? So, like I said, I don't want to like make. I don't want to capitalize on other people's misfortune. That's not the idea here. But there are lessons to be learned with this, like really, really important lessons. And the first of which is that this guy, right? This guy should not be in anything other than just a regular car driving in regular traffic. And this guy, as far as I'm concerned, he's the bartender that has the drunk guy sitting at his bar, right? And keeps serving him and doesn't take the friggin' keys away from him. He's supposed to have an idea what's going on. He knows there's an issue there. He's smelling the brakes. He made a comment about the brakes stinking. This guy is just as guilty as this guy for a criminally negligent act. I don't want to say what I think should happen with them or what they should be charged with, but this is sad, this is dangerous. This happens more than you think. It's always guys like this with these cars that are just built for show, right? You can see there's no racing intent. There's no, right? It has all the trappings of it, you know, it's got the blown motor and it's got a roll cage and everything else, but it's a custom car. It's not a balanced combination. This is not an experienced guy. This is a guy who's just driving a couple $100,000 worth of his ego around, right? He has no business in any of these cars. I don't want to keep going on this. You guys get the general idea. You're in a situation, think. You got to keep your head together. You should not be in a fast car unless, A, you're responsible enough to be in a fast car. I'm not. And I can admit it. A man needs to know his own limitations. I do not belong in fast cars. Power gets the best of me and I do stupid things. And you also need to, if you are in a situation, you need to know your machine. You need to know, run through all of the potential all of the potential problems you could have going forward. Now, and if you've got something as simple as a stuck throttle, how are these guys ignored? A stuck throttle. You got 1,300 horsepower. It's a roots blown motor, so this thing is pure torque at 2,000, 2,500 RPM, where it's stuck idling it. I hope you got something out of that. Be safe. I'll see you tomorrow.